Hello, my name is Barbara Mainhart, and I am the Outreach and Marketing Coordinator for the Alpha Center for Divorce Mediation. We're doing a series of videos and blogs about topics that are very, very important as people go through the divorce program. Today, my guest is Michael Hughes, who is an attorney-mediator with our organization, has been with us for quite a long time. And the focus today is going to be on a special needs child and divorce. Obviously, anything is difficult with children and divorce, but when there are special needs, other issues have to be taken a look at, that decisions need to be made. So I'd like to introduce Michael today. Hi, Michael.
Hello.
So tell us a little bit about how Pennsylvania views the special needs child in a divorce situation.
Well, there's a couple things that you need to take into consideration. As with any custody case or support case, there are guidelines that courts will follow in dealing with custody and support of a minor child. There's some other interests that really need to be taken into consideration when you're dealing with a child with special needs. And again, I think we'll cover some of those.
Mm-hmm. Good. So I would imagine too then that there are, obviously there are financial issues around the children, but there must be additional financial issues surrounding a special needs child, because
Well,
that's Mhm.
absolutely, that's true. And there are the support guidelines that, again, would guide a mediator or guide the court in developing what child support would be. But then when you have a child with special needs, you need to look at what other expenses and costs that may be there that are not covered in the guidelines. You may have additional medical expenses
Mhm.
that are ongoing with the child. You may have adaptive equipment that needs to be considered as the child is at his or her age at 6 or 7, and that adaptive equipment may change as they get older.
Mhm.
You're going to have to look at the different nutritional needs of the children. There may be some certain diets that they may need to be on. Again, these type of things are additional expenses over and above what will be the standard and norm considered in the child support guidelines.
But I would imagine that, just like any other child, the idea is that everything has to be done in the best interest of the child going forward.
That's 100% in both support and in custody. The court is always looking at what's in the best interest of the child going forward. So that even takes you into talking about custody. A court is always going to look at what's in the best interest of the child. Hopefully, you have two parents who are on the same page and looking at what's in the best interest of the child, whether you're talking about who's going to be the primary physical custodian, the partial physical custodian, if they're going to share, if they're going to need different respite care going forward, those kind of things. That these are all things that you need to take a look at in either in going into court or in preparing the marital settlement agreement in developing that.
Yeah, I would imagine that the whole idea of the visitation, et cetera, is now really kind of a lot more complex, because how do you get the child, especially if they're in adaptive equipment, to the other parent and get them back, and without really kind of, like, I guess, stressing out the child as well, but making sure that both parents can have an opportunity to parent the child.
Absolutely. And again, this all goes back to best interest of the child. And as long as both parents are taking this into consideration and what is important for the child, that's something that you can look at when they're younger. And again, the things that these parents are going to have to do is really look to the future as well.
That's
For
an
the
interesting
children.
point. I was wondering, because I do realize that I believe that many children kind of age out of a lot of support, etc., and now things change, right?
That's true. You're going to have to look at things like Medicare, Social Security, those kind of things for the child, and you're really going to have to take a look forward as to. And I know people don't want to look at this sometimes, but when you're not here anymore, what's
Right.
going to happen to your child with special needs? Is
Mhm.
there going to be someone named as guardian? Is the child going to be put in a state-run facility? Is the child going to be put in a community-based facility in a home where there's generally 2 or 3 other individuals in a home with 24/7 staff? Is that what's required? Those
Mhm.
kind of things are really going to have to be looked at.
Mhm.
The other thing from a monetary aspect you have to look forward to um, is protecting the monies that the child is receiving, that from Social Security, from Medicare, because there's certain limits that are placed on that. So you may want to look at getting a special needs trust put in place,
Uh-huh.
because a special needs trust will protect the rights of the child, essentially, and the dollars of the child, I should say.
Mhm. Right, and just like many couples going into a divorce situation and thinking about their children, nobody is probably thinking along those lines. So, in our mediation program, we can bring all of that up and make sure that they are. I would just have to say, like, that all of the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, so that you're protecting the child and making sure that the parents have a really solid grasp on what's going to happen.
And that would be important in the mediation process, that we would cover all bases with both parties coming in to make sure that the needs of the child are covered from a support basis, from a custody basis. If there was something that want to be done with guardianship, we would look at that as well.
Mhm.
We would cover everything with them in the mediation process.
Yeah, and that's really good because I know that probably it's very difficult to think about, but in our program, that's one of the things that we do is the best interest of the child, and whether it's a little 5-year-old running around or somebody who's got cerebral palsy or whatever, we want to make sure that that child is completely cared for.